How I knew I wasn't a normal drinker. Welcome to the Samantha Parker Show. In today's episode, I want to get into some actual facts. So we're going to do science and we're going to do feelings. Facts and feelings, you guys. That's what we're doing on the show today. But how do you really know if you're not a normal drinker? I think that there's some actual scientific stuff that goes into it. Like I can say, well, the FDA says I should have this many drinks. But honestly, a lot of it comes down to you. How do you feel? Because I know people that really they would drink once in a while, like on vacation, and they completely cut alcohol out of their life because they're like, it's not serving me. And then you have people like me who literally every moment of their life revolves around where are we drinking, who's drinking, how much are we drinking, all of those things. And then, it goes even further than that to people who are actually physically dependent on alcohol because of how much they drink. When you look at your own drinking, that's a choice that you get to make. Like, am I a normal drinker or am I not a normal drinker? But there are people out there. In fact, I know my husband is one of them where he's like, oh, I haven't had a drink for a couple of weeks. And that would have tripped me out. In order for me to not have had a drink for a couple of weeks, I would have had to have been exercising extreme self-control. There are also people who will go out to dinner and be like, oh, a glass of red wine does sound nice. And they don't even finish it. They leave it on the table. And for me, that is what's happening here? Where are you going? What? There's no way. So when we talk about this subject on the podcast today, remember there is statistics, science, what the FDA says and different things like that. And then there's also your gut. How do you actually feel? And as an alcoholic, sometimes I need science to step in and be like, hey, you're way off base here. Sometimes we just need these facts to help us figure it out. But I kind of summed it up in 8 different points of what constitutes normal drinking and what doesn't. So if any of this sounds like you and you're already on the fence, your intuition just knows, hey, maybe it's time to cut back on the drinking. All right, let's just dive in here, okay? So number 1, you constantly say, look how great I handled that. Let me give you an example here. I would oftentimes manage my drinking very, very well. There was a lot of mental effort that was going into it, but that's not the point here. But there was many times where I could go out and not even drink that much. In fact, I think back to last year at my birthday party. I'm big on birthdays, you guys. If you've been here, you should know this by now. And it is officially February or almost February. No, I think when you're listening to this podcast, you guys, it is officially February, which is my birthday month. And last year on my birthday, I threw a huge party at my house. And I remember thinking I just don't want to feel like shit tomorrow. And I just had this huge goal where I was like, I'm not going to overdrink just so I can show everyone it's fine. And by everyone, I was myself, right? No one was actually scrutinizing every little thing I drank. That was me doing that. And on my birthday last year, I set that intention and I was fine. I had a few glasses of champagne throughout the night. We had a DJ. I mean, there was probably 70 people in my home at one point, and it was the most fun night ever. And I remember the next day I was like, see, I totally have control over my relationship with alcohol. You guys know that's something I like to say a lot. I would say it all the time. I'm reevaluating my relationship with alcohol and I've totally got this. It's really that toxic ex. But yes, I absolutely could handle it all the time. And I think I would do these little micro moments where I was like, look, see, we went out and I was totally fine. I had 3 drinks. Or look, we were home all weekend and I only drank 3/4 of that bottle of wine. Look how good I'm doing. Look at me, look at me, look at me. It's very egotistical, weird shit that was going on in my mind. But that is not normal behavior. It's almost like virtual signaling to yourself. You're like, I've got this. I'm fine. Look how great I am. And then, the next weekend, of course, I was like, I'm fine. I got this. Look at me. Right off the slippery slope we would go. 3-day hangover, guilt, shame cycle, and repeat. So number 1, if you guys constantly are telling yourself, look how good I am, you probably aren't a normal drinker. Number 2, you were always depressed on Mondays. This is a big one for me. Mondays were extremely difficult and I work for myself. So it's not like I had to go clock in at 7 a.m., at a shitty job somewhere. But I was literally having to convince myself every single Monday to get out of bed and get going. And I would be stuck in the guilt and shame cycle, you guys, because I know I would have overdrank over the weekend. I wasn't feeling good. I was feeling bloated and I was dragging myself into Monday. And then by Thursday, I was like, oh, look, I feel good again. And I was drinking. So really, I think what was happening though is Monday, I was like coming off that drinking high, even if I had like been super hungover on Saturday or Sunday, but I was hitting a really, really big low. Alcohol is a major depressant. And so on Mondays, I was having to convince myself all the time to opt into life. And if you guys feel this way, like you go through your week, like dreading Monday, I always started Thursday, but let's say Friday, Saturday, you hit drinking, you have fun and you're like, everything's great. And then right back to Monday, you're super, super depressed. Alcohol is playing a huge role in that. And you cannot lie to yourself anymore. You have to look at that and be like, that is not okay behavior. I deserve to feel good. I deserve to look forward to Mondays. And I don't have to convince myself to be alive. Number 3, you are a pusher. I was a pusher, and I hate saying this because I feel like inside, like, oh, I'm not a pushy person. But what I mean by this is when you go out for drinks with friends, you're the one that's like, oh, let's get more shots. Or if someone's not drinking, you're like, haha, what do you drink? Like, let's get this going. You're the one who is always like, let's have drinks at my house. And you're like, let's open another bottle of wine. It might seem like very innocent. It wasn't like I was trying to be destructive or trying to harm anyone. And you might feel the same way, but in the back of your head, you're kind of pushing. You're pushing for a few more drinks. And I swear to God, it's just that, like, it's the drunk Sam that comes out. It's not the like nice, normal, respect everyone Sam. It's I wonder if I could get everyone else to have a few more drinks so it feels more normal if I have a few drinks. And that's what alcoholics do. That is like the alcohol taking over. It's, your prefrontal cortex has dropped and you're no longer making rational decisions. So instead, you're going to scheme. You're going to scheme your way into having more drinks. And if someone else gets more drunk than you, you're like, oh, perfect. See, I'm a normal drinker. We're back to number one, and we're back to number one, and we're back to virtue signaling. So you kind of get it here, right? All right. Honestly, this one, number 4, is a big one for me. You mentally prepare for drinking events and you obsess over your calendar. You guys, huge. You can see how these all flow together, though. Monday, I was looking at, oh, I bet I could get a lunch on Thursday with so-and-so. We'll like work on business stuff so I won't feel bad. And I know we could have like 4 glasses of wine. Or I was looking ahead to like, oh, we've got this event, this event, this event. And I was literally planning out my drinking. It was obsessive. And when I was able to control, back to number 1, it was because I had obsessed so hard and told myself like 1 drink, 1 drink, 1 drink, 2 drinks, 2 drinks, 2 drinks. I got this, I got this, I got this. It was so much mental bandwidth, like both ways, to even like keep it under the radar. And that's like so easy to flick off to the side. You're like, oop. As soon as the alcohol hits the brain and suddenly you're not thinking like you anymore, you're like, oh, goodbye. Let's have all the drinks we want. But really, it's obsessing over your social calendar and where and when the drinking is going to come into play. So for my birthday this year, I'm running a 10K race in Vegas. And I just found out like we have to be there Saturday night. And I thought we could go Sunday and just be there during the day and pick up our race badges. But we're going to have to go a night early. And my first thought, it was like old Sam thoughts, was like, oh shit, if we go Saturday night, are we going to be hungover for a race on Sunday? And then I got happy. I was like, I will not be. I will not be because I won't be drinking on Saturday night. And that was like really rad. But you can see how your brain starts to kind of plan out even your hangover. And I still have some of that lingering stuff that comes up. But what I love about it is instantly I'm like, wait, that's not even me anymore. And I'm so flippin' proud of that. All right, number 5, you guys, honestly, you just know. This was like my huge red flag, was I just knew. I don't know if it was God whispering to me. I don't know if it was the universe whispering to me, but I just knew. I constantly knew. And I would get this little voice in the back of my head. And it would be like, that your life could be so much more better if you finally like let this one go. It felt like the last totem on the totem pole of like finally living my life. And I would be like, what? No, I would push it off. But like deep down inside, I fucking knew. I was really good at lying to myself, but I just knew. And I think that kind of comes into, in the beginning here, I was talking about like, there's some science stuff behind this. And then there's just some things where it's like intuition, other world, God, universe, whatever, you just know. You know, your soul knows, that like inside part of your brain, your heart, you just know. But it's not something you want to deal with because it's not fun. It's not fun to be like, hey, I have a drinking problem. I need to like put this down. You know, the other side of it is like pretty awesome, but it is actually something that isn't super fun. You know, I can always compare things to exercise because I think that's something we all understand. But really, like today at the gym, I'm trying to get faster for this 10K. I just started running, like a month before I got sober. And right now I'm 8 months sober. So I've been running for 9 months and I'm pretty slow, but I'm 39, almost 40, super close to 40. So I'm like trying to get my time up and working on my cardio and working on my endurance. So today on my running plan, which I use the Runna app, by the way, I know a lot of you guys messaged me about this. Like, what are you using? And it's called Runna. It's Runna, and it builds out a really cool plan for you based on where you're at, where you're going, blah, blah, blah. Hey, Runna, if you're listening, like maybe you should sponsor me. Can apps listen to podcasts? I have no idea. But anyways, on my training plan today was 4.5 miles of rolling hills. So I did 10 sets of uphill sprints and it was so flipping hard. It was insanely hard. And, you know, while I was doing that, thought popped into my head. It's like, you know, this is the really, really hard thing that gets you the results that you want. This right now isn't fun, but I know how great it feels to like hit a time, to be able to run. You guys, I can run like 2 miles straight now. And when I started, I couldn't run a single minute. So looking back, I'm really proud of where I've come, but that was hard. That was hard to run that first minute. That was hard to run those 10 uphill sprints, especially I have to do it on the treadmill right now because it's freaking freezing balls out there. And it was hard, you guys. It was hard. Just like saying I'm an alcoholic was hard. But now I get to experience the freedom of it. And I know when I follow the training plan, I do the hard things, I get the goals that I want. I get what I actually desire. And that's the fact that, you know, now I can run 2 miles straight. Now it's the fact that like my time is dropping off my miles. It's phenomenal, you guys, but you have to do that one hard thing. You have to be uncomfortable for those uphill sprints. You have to be uncomfortable letting alcohol go to get to the freedom piece. And a lot of times you just know it's time. All right, number 6, you can't imagine not drinking for any period of time. This is 100% me. Oh, so many of these are 100% me. That's why we have this podcast, I guess. But, and it's probably you too. I remember doing some diet. I don't remember what it was called. It was super popular a few years ago. What is it? It's going to pop into my head. I've been trying to remember, like, since I started writing my notes for my podcast earlier today. There was a book. I went with it. It was like 30 days. It kind of reminds me of like a paleo diet. It's like clean eating, but anyways, you can't drink alcohol. And that to me was like wild. I made it 2 weeks, ended up super drunk, blacked out in the backyard because me and my husband drank like 2 bottles of wine, but we did make it those 2 weeks. But that to me was unimaginable. The reason why I never did 75 hard, even though I really, really wanted to, was I was like, there's no physical way I can go without alcohol for 75 days. It flipped my brain out. It flipped me out. I was like, why would I want to ever live that way? And there's just like no possible way. You know, even telling me like, hey, you can't drink alcohol for a whole week, because I would tell myself these kinds of things. I'd be like, hey, let's just take a break for a week. Yeah, I was okay for a few days, which then I went back into virtual signaling. I was like, look at you go, girl. You've got a handle on this. Boom, right down the toilet. So if you can't imagine yourself not drinking for any period of time, you probably have a problem with drinking. 100% you do. That's why I know in AA, they practice a lot. Like, don't think about the future. Don't think that you're never going to sip, you know, a cold cocktail on a beach again. Just realize, like, I'm not drinking today. And that's really what helped me get through my first little bit of sobriety, because I was like, well, I'm never going to drink again. I'm like, what about when we go on this trip? Or what about when this happens? And it's like full body panic. Full fucking body panic. And I realized, like, oh my God, it's not that big of a deal. You can just not drink today. You know, when you think about forever, I'm getting more comfortable with forever for sure. But sometimes when we think that far out and I'm like, I'll never do that again. One thing I think about a lot is I'm like, oh, my husband and I will never go out jeeping, have a few drinks, like sitting on the tailgate of the Jeep, you know, have a little adult time fun when that inhibition comes down. I'm like, we're never going to do that again. And that's where I'm like, but I love going out and jeeping and just like spending time together and being romantical. And it's like, I can still do those things. I know that, but that's something that gets tripped up in my mind. So you guys, if that's you, you might not be a normal drinker, okay? Number 7, you are always setting health goals and then resetting them. So I know you guys have heard me talk about my story about how I was paying a health coach for like 9 months before I actually came out and said, well, the reason why this isn't working is because I'm drinking so much. So I would always say like, oh, this will be the week that like I don't drink. Because she would say like, just have a drink every other weekend. Like just have like 1 drink every other weekend or 2 drinks every other weekend. She's like, I'm not telling you not to drink. And again, I never brought any of this up to her. I was just like, oh yeah, okay. In my head, I was like, is this lady crazy? Like, how would anyone do that? So I would lie. Oh, I did not like admitting that. I don't like being a liar. It's like one of my like things where I'm like, just tell me what's going on. And when you have to face like these shitty characteristics about yourself, it's not so fun. I'm in AA. And so obviously I work the steps, and part of it is like going through your like character defaults and admitting them and like handing them over to God. So it kind of sucks though. I'm like, oh yes, I was a liar, a big fat fucking liar. Fun times, guys. Okay, number 8, if you're stuck in the guilt and shame cycle, and I would do that a ton. I'd be like, why did I do that? Why did I drink so much? And then I would feel shame for days. And a lot of times I was feeling shame for the actual actions that I took. Guilt, shame cycle over and over and over. And it was like Groundhog Day that I could never wake up from. And you don't realize so much when you're living in it because it's got like a freaking chokehold on you. But I'm telling you, when you push back further away, like my sober date keeps getting further and further away, I'm like, this was controlling everything in my life, guilt and shame. And I can't even tell you how blessed and how amazing it feels to take that off and just let it go. Those were really like my top 8 things that were big signals to me that, hey, your drinking is not normal. This is not how people live. You don't have to live like this. Of course, this is how some people are living. I think alcohol sucks and maybe we should like get rid of it, but that's just like maybe the phase of life I'm in. These were really the top 8 things that stood out to me the most when it came to my own drinking. And then I have an episode coming out next week that I think you guys will really love. It's with Dr. Valerie Gettings. And we really got into the science behind like how much can you drink to be a normal drinker. And what she was telling me, you guys will have to listen to it though. You guys are going to love it. It's coming up. I know I'm like doing a little foreshadowing here. But really, when she was telling me these facts, the normal guideline was 1 drink or less per day. And I'm like, that's wild. So if you are a normal drinker, it's like you go out to dinner, you have 1 drink or you have no drinks. Like that's it. That's it. And to me, I was like, well, why would anyone go out and have 1 drink? Does that sound wild to you guys? Like, please let me know. But anyways, if you guys want to check out more about Dr. Valerie Gettings, just head over to her Instagram. She has tons of great resources, and then you'll get to hear from her next week on the podcast. But what I really love too is she has a quiz on her Instagram, and it's linked to the CDC website, but you can check your drinking. So if you need to go input, be asked those questions and have it come out and tell you, that's what you need. If you need some validation that like, hey, you're not crazy, my drinking is not normal, head on over there. It's cdc.gov/alcohol/check your drinking. But you can also, I'm more like on Instagram. I just look up Dr. Valerie Gettings, go to the link in her bio. She has it linked there. Okay, guys, I will also have this written version of everything we just discussed over on my Substack. It's Sam's Sober Stack if you want to check that out. But I do have some more things for you guys. So there were some feelings in there. There were some facts. And when you really get into the science of what alcohol is doing to you, it's also wild. There are tons and tons of new studies coming out. Like there was a huge one that was just published on the direct link to cancer. And, I'm one of those people that I'm like, well, they say everything causes cancer. Like I remember reading about how barbecuing your meat causes cancer because when the fat drips down, the smoke coming back up gets into it, which causes a carcinogen, and it could be giving us all cancer. And so that's kind of how it starts to feel. But did you guys know there's actually a direct link to your alcohol consumption and breast cancer? And there's tons of really great information coming out that should scare the shit out of you. It kind of reminds me of when, everyone used to smoke. Obviously, I wasn't around for that. Well, I was born in 85, and I do still remember going to restaurants and things, and they had smoking and non-smoking. And I could vividly remember when our bowling alley put in a specific room that people would have to go smoke in, because I remember you go to the bowling alley and like everyone was smoking. I was 21 or 22 when they took smoking out of bars. I was probably like 23, to be honest. So people were still smoking places like that. And then it just got to the point where people were like, whoa, this is killing all of us. And I think we're starting to get there with alcohol. So yes, lots of studies coming out. Next week on the podcast, Dr. Valerie and I will really, really get into that. Okay. And then I found something else I want to share with you guys. It's 6 key differences between normal drinkers and alcoholics. And I pulled this from Alistair Stewart. I hope I'm saying his name right. It's Alastair Stewart on Instagram. His post came across my feed. He had some incredible information. So everything I'm about to share with you, these 6 facts, I'm citing directly from him, but it's phenomenal. So here we go, you guys. Number 1, social drinkers tend to drink occasionally, often during celebrations or social events. Alcoholics, however, usually drink regularly, sometimes daily, and often without any special occasion. So, I'm like, let's celebrate. Oh, let's have a bad day. Oh, it's your birthday. Oh, it's just a normal Tuesday, whatever it is. That's me, okay? Number 2, for social drinkers, alcohol is about enjoyment or enhancing social interactions. In contrast, alcoholics often rely on drinking as a way to cope with stress, difficult emotions, or even withdrawal symptoms. So social drinkers, alcohol is about just having fun, getting a little tipsy, getting a little buzz, being like, whoa, that's too much. As an alcoholic, I definitely used alcohol to really like cover up trauma, stress, pain, all of these deep, deep things that I had been running from for years and years and years. So it wasn't a fun, let's have a fun little drink for me. It was so much deeper than that. And honestly, past me was doing the best she could. I want to go back and give her a hug. That's the tools I had. Number 3, a social drinker can easily stop after 1 or 2 drinks without any difficulty. An alcoholic, on the other hand, struggles to stop once they start and may feel compelled to keep going. Ooh, that one's hard. An alcoholic struggles to stop and may feel compelled to keep going. Number 4, drinking rarely causes significant issues for social drinkers, but for alcoholics, it leads to problems, relationships, work, health, often having a noticeable pattern on their lives. I, even as owning my own business, again, this goes back to what a liar. I'm not enjoying this, you guys, confessing all my lies. But, it is what it is. And we do better. We listen and we don't judge, and we do better next time. I would lie all the time, like, hey, I'm so sick, I can't meet that meeting. Can we reschedule? And of course, people were like, oh, yeah, absolutely. But really, it was because I was too hungover. Fun times. Let's move on. Number 5, social drinkers don't usually have any emotional attachment to alcohol. Alcoholics, however, often feel dependent on it to manage their emotions or even to feel normal. Yes, in social settings, it was really, really hard. And this is something I still struggle with for probably the first 30 minutes of any social gathering. I feel itchy. I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? I don't have the alcohol to spice me up or bring me down, whatever it is I'm looking for that day. And I get really, really nervous, and I use it to manage my emotions and to feel normal, especially in social situations. Number 6, lastly, social drinkers can go without alcohol without experiencing any physical effects. Alcoholics, by contrast, may face withdrawal symptoms, anxiety shakes, or intense cravings if they try to stop. The cravings are real. They definitely are, for sure. I do not think I was completely physically dependent on alcohol, where I know I didn't need medical help to withdraw. So, I wasn't to the point where my body would shut down if I didn't have it because it was so dependent on it. But definitely the cravings were real. Swedish fish. I still love Swedish fish. In fact, I brought a little handful with me today in my snack bag. I got my protein and I got my little snack bag. I love snacks, but the Swedish fish got me through, man. It was tough. The cravings were super, super tough. I would go buy a bag of Swedish fish or some Twizzlers. It was kind of funny. I was craving that weird gummy type candy, and it got me through. But the cravings were real. I was having a major dip, and that's what I had to do. A lot of times people will message me on TikTok and they're like, what do you do about the cravings? And I'm like, I just went with it. I just ate it. If I wanted some cookies, I got some cookies. If I felt like I needed an apple pie, I made an apple pie. If I wanted burgers and fries, I did it. Because when you pull back and you look at the calorie consumption, it's mind blowing. Like I could go eat what is that cookie place right now? They're from Utah and they're getting a lot of trash with the pink box. Absolutely horrible for you. Crumble cookie. If you want a crumble cookie, go get one. Because a crumble cookie, as horrible, those things are bad, you guys. Have you looked at those? Okay, anyways, that's a side note. If you want a crumble cookie, it's probably better for you than that entire bottle of vodka. All right, facts are facts here. Really, for me, what it came down to, how did I know I wasn't a normal drinker, is I would obsess. The obsession was so real. I would choose it over everything. Planning, scheming, I would make it hard to seem normal. I would surround myself with other people even who that was normal for them. And it was like we would all feed off of each other. You know, there are times now where I'm like, oh, it'd be so fun just like watch a movie together. But before I was always like, no, I'm going to go out and drink. Like, no, we're going to go do this. We're going to do that. And it sucks. Like, it's depressing. Like, it kind of hits hard when you realize like how many like great memories you missed out on, especially with your kids, because you chose drinking over them. Even if you were drinking around them, you're still putting like a barrier up between you and you're showing them shitty behavior. There's a lot there, you know, but even if you were present, you're not present. And it makes me it makes me really flippin' sad that that was my life for so long, you know, but I can't go back and I can't change that. So I hope that, you know, by me sharing my message, me showing up here, maybe it can change your life and maybe we can change other people's lives, because it doesn't have to be this way. You don't have to live this way. All right, guys, if you're looking for more sober support, I just launched and opened my Sam's Sober Stack. I do have free articles over there. Substack is a really cool platform. And then I have paid content as well. So if you subscribe, it's $7 a month. But you'll get access to like my weekly insights, updates, my 30-day printable sober journal. You guys, we did this for Dry January. The Dry January group absolutely loved it. So I brought it over to my paid community on Substack. You know, there's engaging community comments. You can meet other people. We can all network and help each other. And then, of course, you know, I've got lots of subscriber-only content. If you were looking for this podcast episode, though, in a written form, you know, I'll have the links to everyone I discussed. If you want to head over to Substack and even subscribe for free, I'm going to put up this entire podcast in written form. So I will have like the links to the people that I mentioned, any outside stuff I think would helpful for you guys. If you like to read things, I love to read things. I like to listen. I love to read. But my Sam's Sober Stack is the place you want to be. It's linked in the show notes here. It's linked on my bio everywhere. But I would love to have you as a free subscriber or a paid subscriber so you can get exclusive content. Okay, guys, thanks for listening to the podcast. And of course, if you loved it, please leave me a review, or even better, come over to Instagram. On Instagram, I'm the Samantha Parker. On TikTok, I'm the Samantha Parker Show. Or even on YouTube, leave me a comment. Let me know. Tell me what would be helpful for you. And let's just have another day sober. Thanks, guys.